Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Monday, December 6th, 2021. Hard to believe that it is almost the end. Well, actually, it is the end of the year 2021, and we are still here. Surprisingly, most of us are still here, especially those of us in this line of work because, well, we are not very liked among the populace, among the powers that be, and among, well, pretty much anybody who doesn't understand what is going on. And also, at times, not liked by each other. For whatever reason, we still find ways to divide ourselves in this community, which needs to stop. And I will keep speaking on that. It needs to stop. If you find yourself arguing with anybody in this community over one aspect or another of whatever's going on, you need to stop. It serves no real purpose, and it is the same thing as the masses of people are doing, and it is an ego trip. You could feel it in yourself when you stand in your position and you are unwilling to change your mind about certain things. Obviously, I'm not talking about the majority of you, because the majority of you are great people and you're in this for the right reasons. But a lot of people come here and, they get involved in this stuff and it's more of like a hobby or some kind of entertainment for them or whatever. This is not a hobby for me. This is not entertainment. This is real life. This is the reality that we have allowed ourselves to, live under. We have collectively manifested this reality for ourselves by being just silent, allowing these people to literally get away with whatever they want. But I'll stop there. I have a couple things for you guys today, and hopefully you'll learn something today, because I also recently learned something and we're going to go through it after a little bit. I don't know if this video is going to be the part 2 of the last one that I did, because I have some other things that I want to get to. Nevertheless, it is going to be a good one, and I'll just go ahead and get started. Alright, so this first one comes to us from The Atlantic. What's really behind global vaccine hesitancy? Countries with low vaccination rates are suffering from more than just inequity. Pretty funny that they have a little statue of Pinocchio here with the, the needle as his nose. Pinocchio's known as he's a liar. He lies, his nose gets bigger. So that really just tells you everything you need to know right there. And one could look at this and say, oh no, they put that there because they're, trying to say there's a lot of lies out there about the shot. I don't think so. Okay, everything seems to be going all right with the recording app. So we'll just get moving. In the public health world, the rise of Omicron prompted a great big, quote, "I told you so." First of all, no, it did not. Absolutely did not. Especially after the post that I put up the other day, which the name of that nanotechnology corporation is called Omicron. So, yeah, they're not hiding anything anymore, and it's plain to see for everybody. So, you really don't have an excuse to not understand this stuff at this point in time. Since the new variant was detected in South Africa, advocacy groups, the World Health Organization, and global health experts have said the new variant was a predictable consequence of vaccine inequity. Rich countries are hoarding vaccine doses, they said, leaving much of the developing world under-vaccinated. But in reality, countries with low vaccination rates are suffering from more than just inequity. South Africa, the country where the variant was first reported, did receive vaccines far too late, partly because wealthy countries did not donate enough doses and pharmaceutical companies refused to share their technology. Okay. At one point, South Africa had to export doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that had manufactured in country in order to comply with the contract it had signed with the company. The C-19 vaccines must be kept cold, and because not everywhere in South Africa has reliable roads and refrigeration, the country has struggled to store and transport vaccine doses to far-flung areas. And we know why they have to be kept cold. I won't go into detail, but you should know, because I really don't want to get this video taken down. Today, though, South Africa has about 150 days' worth of vaccine supply. It's now facing the same problem that's bedeviling countries the world over. Lots of people don't want to get their shots. South Africa recently paused deliveries of the J&J and Pfizer vaccines because it's more stock than it can use. We have plenty of vaccine, quote, we have plenty of vaccine and capacity hesitancy, but hesitancy is a challenge. Nicholas Crisp, Deputy Director General of the country's health department, told Bloomberg recently. It's pretty funny how his last name's Crisp. You could, ascertain that could mean CRISPR technologies, but it could be a stretch. It could be a stretch. I tend to think out loud when I do these, so just bear with me there. The South African experience is an example of how anti-vaccine sentiment has become a global phenomenon at precisely the worst time. Nearly a quarter of Russians, 18% of Americans, and about 10% of Germans, Canadians, and French are unwilling to get vaccinated, according to a November Morning Consult poll of 15 countries. First of all, it's not that we're just unwilling, it's that absolutely not, because we know what it is based on the documentation. The actual documentation, not some shadowy group of experts that never really is seen, or you never really see any of their documentation. They just give you some chart and call it evidence. But okay, what do I know, right? I'm not an expert. Okay, let's see. South Africa wasn't part of the Morning Consult sample, but a study from this past summer found that it had a high level of vaccine hesitancy when compared globally. Falls roughly in the middle of African countries in terms of vaccine hesitancy. About a third of South Africans have been vaccinated, a higher percentage than most other African countries, but 22% of South Africans weren't willing to accept the C-19 vaccine. According to a study from this past spring, compared with just 4% of people in Ethiopia, 38% of people in Democratic Republic of the Congo, Malawi, and South Sudan recently destroyed thousands of vaccine doses because the countries weren't going to be able to administer them before they expired. The U.S. should not blame South Africa or any other nation for vaccine hesitancy, or stop sending vaccines to places that need them. Access is crucial, but vaccine hesitancy is an urgent problem, and a global one. New variants can emerge wherever populations remain unvaccinated. Yeah, see, it's always a worldwide problem that can only be solved by world government, right? This is the train that they're on, and they're not stopping. Unless somebody makes them stop, but we are not doing, what we should be doing. Indeed, it's possible that Omicron emerged elsewhere. It was merely detected in South Africa, which has advanced genomic sequencing operation. If we had had everybody immunized in the world who is over the age of 18 with at least one dose of C vaccine, Omicron might not have happened. It's kind of like when they tell you, like, oh, if you get your flu shot, oh yeah, you'll probably get the flu, but it's not going to be as bad as it would have been. There's no way to prove something like that. That's literally a straw man argument. There's no way to prove that this thing that they're saying, that, first of all, not really a thing at all, there's no way to prove that it might not have happened. They choose their words very deliberately on purpose. Here we go. Noni McDonald, a vaccinologist. See, that's weird. I guess it's actually pronounced vaccinologist, but we won't say that too many times. at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia told me some surveys suggest that vaccine hesitancy is actually higher in rich countries than in poor ones. So the virus is just as likely to evolve into some dreadful new form in an unvaccinated American's body as a Congolese or Russian person's. And check this out. We'll probably bring this one up next time. Inside the mind of an anti-vaxxer. Come on. Come on. If policymakers want to limit the damage that Omicron and future variants do, they'll have to better understand why people reject vaccines. Something as complex as vaccine hesitancy is bound to have many causes. Research suggests that one fundamental instinct drives it: a lack of trust. Duh. Hello. You got people out there talking about getting rid of large swaths of the world population through this means, but yeah, they're going to work on building trust. Come on. That's ridiculous. Getting people to overcome their hesitancy will require restoring their trust in science, their leaders, and quite possibly one another. The crisis of vaccine hesitancy and the crisis of cratering trust in institutions are one and the same. First of all, let's back up a little bit. I don't think anybody doubts the actual science of the way that these things are supposed to work. You expose your body to something, you build immunity to it. That's the idea behind the original idea of vaccines. You can go outside and roll around in the dirt. You're going to build up immunity. God created you to be able to withstand pretty much anything. There's something out there that will heal any ailment of the body, and it's usually in the form of a plant. No one's doubting that. That's common sense. What we are doubting is psychopaths in charge of these corporations and governments and institutions, NGOs and banks and stuff, who are hell-bent on world domination openly, that are openly pouring billions and billions and billions of dollars into campaigns, marketing campaigns, just the entire movement in general, trying to get people to take this specific one. And the reason why is, of course, well, multiple reasons. One, depopulation first and foremost. Two, Internet of Bodies. 3, DNA altering, as we have read before on this channel, from Moderna's own mouth. That video is still up on Austin from Ohio 4, because 3 got wiped. Austin from Ohio 4, look that up. It was a little test video I did of running that document, and it never got taken down. I don't know why. But among other things, the world over, people feel lied to, unheard, and pushed aside. They no longer have any faith in their leaders. They're lashing out against their governments and health officials, in some cases by rejecting the C-19 vaccine. Of course. Then they go into populism, blah, 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 all this stuff. Oh, check this out. Past research has similarly found that populists around the world are more likely to believe in conspiracy theories about issues such as vaccination and global warming. Well, you mean the footage we could pull up of Bill Gates talking about using it to curb the world population 15%? Oh, you mean climate change, as in geoengineering, as in chemtrails, as in, oh, wait a minute. This here, weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. This is the Air Force or Navy. Either one. 1996, August 1st. They literally admit it right here. Geoengineering, weather modification, military operations, military strategy, military capabilities, military applications. Meteorology, military operations, strategy, and tactics. And the full text of the report is right there. I mean, come on. You literally just have to look up the documentation. It's not hard. It's really not hard. But before we go back to, actually we won't go back to that one, because it's basically just pointing the finger at people like us. Saying why we can't go back to normal. They're still going on with that. These people aren't going to stop. They are not going to stop doing this until everybody takes that thing. It's not really anything that we should even... I can't. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Alright, here we are over at Live Science, and this is talking about CERN, and this was as of 3 days ago. Ghost particles detected inside the Large Hadron Collider for the first time. Think about that. Think about what that means. Ghost particles. We know what CERN is. We know CERN is their doorway to the other side. You know, like the message that was all over Travis Scott's Astro World, see you on the other side. The whole the Gothard Tunnel ritual that they did a few years ago, where they literally simulated CERN and the opening of the portal to let literal demons walk the earth. This is what this stuff is. And we can only assume, based on their past behaviors and their past, statements, that this is not even the truth. This is a watered down version of the actual truth. But we're going to go ahead and read it anyway. Ghostly neutrinos have never been seen inside a particle accelerator until now. Physicists have detected ghost particles called neutrinos inside an atom smasher for the first time. Tiny particles known as neutrinos were spotted during the test run of a new detector at the Large Hadron Collider, world's largest particle accelerator located at CERN near Geneva, Switzerland. The landmark discovery made by CERN's Forward Search experiment, collaboration and presented in a November 24th paper in the journal Physical Review D, is not just the first time the neutrinos have been seen inside the Large Hadron Collider, but it's also the first time they've been found inside any particle accelerator. The breakthrough opens up a completely new window through which scientists can investigate the subatomic world. Do you fully comprehend what that means? You really should, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. Well, darkness of this world. I butchered that, and I apologize. If I said the whole thing again, I'd probably get it right, but you know what I'm saying. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. This is a spiritual war that manifests itself in the physical world. That's what it does. That's how it works. That's how it always has worked. It's always had an influence on what goes on this plane. And this is their doorway. And if nobody can see that, then explain what CERN is. What does CERN mean to you if you don't believe in any of this? And it's not whether or not you believe in it, it's the truth. As I always say, if you stood out in the freeway and there was a semi-truck coming at you and you did not believe it, you would still get hit, regardless if you believed it or not. People gotta wake up, man. The Lord is at the door, and many people are not aware. They're not aware of it. They have no idea that they should be aware of it. They don't know that they should repent. They don't know any of that because they were always taught that it's a fantasy. But the more and more research you do into these things, the more and more you understand, and you have to really understand the way that they think. Why do they believe so much in Luciferianism, in all the ancient religions of Mystery Babylon? Because they know. They have full understanding of that. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll go on with this. Quote, prior to this project, no sign of neutrinos has ever been seen at a particle collider. Study co-author Jonathan Fang, a physics professor at the University of California, Irvine, and co-leader of the Phaser collaboration, said in a statement, this significant breakthrough is a step toward developing a deeper understanding of these elusive particles and the role they play in the universe. Think about this. Every second, about 100 billion neutrinos pass through each square centimeter of your body. Tiny particles are everywhere. They're produced in the nuclear fire of stars and enormous supernova explosions by cosmic rays and radioactive decay, and in particle accelerators and nuclear reactors on Earth. But despite their ubiquity, the particles remain hard to catch. Because neutrinos have no electrical charge and almost zero mass, they barely interact with other types of matter. Yeah, you know why? Because they don't belong on this plane. They don't have the characteristics of matter on this plane because they do not belong on this plane. True to their ghostly nickname, neutrinos view the universe's regular matter as incorporeal, and they fly through it at close to the speed of light. And basically, they just keep going on about that. I will link this in the article below, or in the description box below, of course. But basically, what they just admitted to was that they have accessed the other side. That's what I read when I read things like this. I mean, it's not really that hard to look into this stuff. I just don't get why people aren't doing it. But that's okay. It's alright, because we're here. We're here to make these people understand. Like, you have to look into this or you are going to be caught off guard with your pants down, unaware, have no idea what's going on ever. Until it's too late. Let me see if there's anything else in here that I can read. They're basically just going on about it and all of that. Okay, we'll go ahead and read this part here, and then I'll go on to the next thing, because I got a lot of reading to do in a short amount of time. Given the power of our new detector and its prime location at CERN, we expect to be able to record more than 10,000 neutrino interactions in the next run of the LHC beginning in 2022, Casper said. Casper, like, Casper the ghost. Man. We will detect the highest energy neutrinos that have ever been produced from a human-made source. Neutrinos aren't the phaser scientists' only quarry either. The team is also working on an experiment to detect hypothetical dark photons, which physicists think could be intimately connected to dark matter, a mysterious non-luminous substance believed to account for roughly 85% of the matter in the universe. This is absolutely insane. We should never be messing with any kind of technology like this that can link our world to the other side. And we wonder why God has forsaken most of the world at this point in time. Not saying that none of us can be forgiven, because as an individual, you can always be forgiven. But the people are not turning away from their sin. They're not even trying. They're literally being led like dogs on a leash, like sheep to the slaughter. Moving on. Alright, I found this one rather interesting, of course. This is from the Heritage Foundation. heritage.org/defense/resources, whatever. Improving the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022. Okay. And it's a 29-minute read. We're not going to read this whole thing because I got to... Wait, this ain't a 29-minute... Oh, the full report's 29-minute read, but we're not going to read all that. We're going to read just certain things here. If you don't know what the National Defense Authorization Act is, you should look into it, because this is the act that allows them to, well, there's a lot of things that allow them to, but this one really sets in stone and allocates all the resources for them to be able to establish martial law and lock down the entire country. And it allocates $666 billion to the military and Homeland Security every single year. It's basically an extension of the Patriot Act, but Patriot Act was more like a precursor to this. And this gets renewed every single year. The armed forces are in the midst of a substantial change in how they execute deterrence and prepare for war. The effort to refocus the Department of Defense on great power competition started in earnest with the 2018 National Defense Strategy. This refocus is not a discrete event, but an ongoing process that will take time and resources. Challenges to increase the size of the Navy are representative of the necessary time horizon for the other branches of the military. In this endeavor, Congress is an equal partner with the executive branch, and the 2022 NDAA represents a critically important opportunity to strengthen the national defense. Read that. Well, both the Senate and House versions of the 2022 NDAA increase defense funding, which enables U.S. military to better deter conflict with China and Russia. Always, right? China and Russia. They all work together. While the two NDAA versions are a step in the right direction, Congress can improve the final NDAA. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022 has passed with wide bipartisan margins by 316 to 113 votes in the House of Representatives. Check out the numerology on that one. Once the Senate acts, lawmakers will have to reconcile the differences between the two versions of the bill. Both versions share one laudable characteristic. They increase the resources dedicated to the national defense and thus allow the Department of Defense, DoD, to prepare for better deterrence of conflict with China and Russia. As the new 2022 Index of U.S. Military Strength reports, more attention and resources are needed in order for the U.S. Armed Forces to develop the capabilities required to counter the threats posed by U.S. adversaries abroad. The NDAA should narrowly focus on the areas that increase the nation's military capability, capacity, and readiness. Congress took an important step in that direction by funding most of the unfunded priorities submitted by the senior officers in each of the services. This action suggests that Congress recognizes the insufficiency of the initial budget request submitted by President Joe Biden. However, there are still some important issues to be resolved. This backgrounder highlights important provisions in both versions of NDAA that lawmakers should emphasize. Military capabilities. To assist the armed forces' main mission of deterring adversaries and, when necessary, defeating them on the battlefield, Congress should maintain Army training funds. House version of 2022 NDAA cuts training funds from Army maneuver units by $246 million. Senate version does not. The Army has already scaled back its aspirations for training, stating that it's emphasizing proficiency at lower levels, such as companies and platoons, due to a lack of training funds. The Senate version should prevail. Follow Army priorities when adding to equipment procurement. When the Senate increased the DoD budget request by approximately $24 billion, it scrupulously adhered to the Army's unfunded list in terms of equipment procurement. The House took a very different approach, and its additions failed to adhere closely to the Army's unfunded list. which includes additional $211 million specifically for UH-60 helicopters for Army National Guard. The Senate's method of addressing the procurement items that Army leadership identified as priorities should prevail. Let's go down a little bit. Let's see here. Let's see. Not create a separate National Guard and National Reserve for the Space Force. There will be Guardians, members of the Space Force, who will want to separate from service for stints in the civilian sector and return later. Look at the wording there. It makes sense to give them the opportunity to continue to serve meantime by joining the Guard or the Reserve, which was recognized by the White House, both chambers of Congress, in the budget request and NDAA respectively. And we'll keep going down here a little bit because there is something here that I wanted to show you guys. But I really wanted to get to something else. Let me go through here and find it. Okay, let's start right here. Remove provisions that unnecessarily increase costs. There are multiple provisions within the House bill that would unnecessarily increase costs and create delays in military construction in the acquisition process. One of their provisions requires military constructions to achieve net zero emissions by 2035. So there's a nod at Agenda 2030 right there. At a time when military construction is already facing a substantial backlog. This type of provision guarantees an even bigger backlog and higher costs. There are other provisions that would require the defense industrial base to weigh climate change considerations in its development of projects and products, including international partners in national technology and industrial base. Such provisions will make it even harder to sell to the DoD, and Congress should drop them from the bill. They won't. They won't. And really, you should look into NDAA, and I thought that I saw something up here about CRT, you know what I'm talking about. Excuse me. There's a lot of stuff here. You know what? I'm not even going to spend time on it. I will link this so you guys can go through it. I'm going to move on to the next thing. I really have to get to the next thing. All right, here we are over at the Digital Journal. And this is their warning to us. Be warned. Critical infrastructure attacks will increase in 2022. So, of course, they're going to... This is part of it. This probably goes right into their dark winter that they have planned for us. As the holidays and end of the year draw nearer, what will 2022 bring for the realm of technology? Many business leaders will also be asking what types of cybersecurity issues should they prepare for. Casting his eye through the haze of web traffic for Digital Journal is Saad Bilal, Director of Cybersecurity Consulting Services at Hexagon PPM. Bilal considers what he believes will be the key trends in this coming year for operational technology cybersecurity. With more operational technology-related attacks on the horizon, Bilal, thinking from the U.S. perspective, sees the Biden administration as playing a key role in the year to come. Critical infrastructure attacks will increase at the most inopportune times. According to Bilal, we need to expect the unexpected, as he explains. Pipelines, meat producers, grain cooperatives, oh my. Hackers got hungry in 2021 and critical infrastructure seemed to be their main entree. Huh. Seems like all the things they want to get rid of, right? Drawing on 2021 examples, Bilal finds the Colonial Pipeline hack made everyday citizens aware just how large of a real-world impact cyber attacks can have. Attacks on JBS, a new cooperative, demonstrated how critical resources to keep entire industries alive can go under if a single endpoint is vulnerable. That's what they want. While some measures have been taken, we can expect more of the same, says Bilal. Despite government actions such as the DOE's 100-day action plan and TSA's pipeline directive, it's unrealistic to think that hackers are going to be scared out of attacking critical infrastructure in the future. Not hackers. Not hackers. I predict that entities large and small will be hit, specifically over major holidays when folks aren't attending to their networks as closely as usual and recovery abilities are handicapped. Are you listening? A legitimate OT cybersecurity regulation, not a standard, will be passed in 2022. Turning to the legislative agenda, Bilal... Sorry, Frank, I'm in the middle of doing something, my friend. Turning to the legislative agenda, Bilal predicts the Biden administration's efforts over the past 6 months to improve critical infrastructure and its security show immense promise. We've seen increased funding in the billions and general heightened awareness that the systems that quite literally keep our country running are extremely attractive to adversaries. The actions are not perfect, however, as Bilal recounts. One thing we haven't seen: an actual regulation for critical infrastructure companies to improve their cybersecurity. Yes, we've seen standards, but those aren't mandatory. It's quite possible, with the momentum we're seeing now, the government could pass a regulation or two in 2022 for critical infrastructure security. Smaller power generation utilities will be increasingly targeted. So they're telling you. Check this next part. One sector likely to be in the spotlight is utilities. Utilities. Your electric, your power. Bilal notes these have long been targets for attackers, but what most don't realize is how vulnerable smaller entities are. Yes, hackers are likely actively trying to shut down the entire power grid as we speak. Hello? But attacks on smaller targets are often more successful. Smaller, more regional players typically have less mature programs in place and lack resources they need to have strong security posture. In 2022, I predict we'll see smaller entities in major headlines, potentially, yet hopefully not, with some type of human cost, and possibly see state and local governments waking up to the reality that cybersecurity should be top of the mind topic in executive level discussions. So they're basically saying that people are going to die. Some type of human cost. They're saying they're building this narrative that hackers are trying to take down the power grid. Like, come on. They've been doing this for a long time. They will pull the rug out from under you and blame your neighbor, and you will believe it. Hopefully not, but probably so. Moving on. Okay, I'm going to take a real risk running this one, but I'm going to run it. This is from the Survival blog, and if you guys remember David Spangler's quote, United Nations Director of Planetary Initiative, Lucis Trust member, he's also a Freemason, outspoken Luciferian. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. The Vaccination is that initiation. Diabolical centuries-old plan to enslave humanity and control the world is nearing fruition. People are being inducted into the Illuminati cult. Satanic cults exploit and control their members by corrupting them physically and morally. The situation is characterized by cult-like behavior, the insistence on blind, unquestioning compliance. The mask signals subservience. The Vaccination is the digital biological interface. That enough right there is enough to get this video taken down. We have been complacent. We have allowed Satanists to subvert every social institution. Inevitably, the cult will go after people who refuse to join. It's what they do. Can no longer afford continued complacence. We need to prepare resistance. What form should this take? Are you willing to resist enslavement? Are you prepared to bow down to Lucifer? Humanity is being inducted into a satanic cult. Capitalism, Illuminism, Freemasonry, Communism, they're all the same. Satanic cults exploit and control their members by corrupting and making them sick. Members are essentially slaves. This presentation proves without doubt that America is in for a major fight that will put you and your family in the firing line, literally. So make sure you watch this presentation while it's still online. The reason why you should pay attention now is that because these techniques don't come from books. They're taken from actual 21st century war zones, from lawless states where social chaos is the name of the game, and where not having enough time or money prepared doesn't stop. In occult terms, face masks are emblematic of enslavement. Ultimately, they destroy their adherents. Satanism is the religion of death and destruction. That's why it's evil. Clearly, vaccination is the criteria for entry into this cult and participation in Luciferian society, i.e. the New World Order. Sure seems like that, right? It's getting there. Recently, Klaus Schwab referred to unvaccinated people as a threat to humanity. Hitler couldn't have said it better about the J word. Several dozen heads of the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, and various other globalist bodies have declared the Great Reset needs to include the establishment of a global pandemic treaty to ensure that all humans are vaccinated in accordance with government edicts. We just went over that not long ago. I think it was 1 or 2 videos ago. On March 10th, CNN medical analyst Dr. Leanna Wen was concerned that millions of Americans would reject experimental C-19 vaccines, especially as businesses are reopening. She told anchor Chris Cuomo that we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Otherwise, if everything is reopened, what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? And she was the one, if you remember, she was all over the news saying that you should have your driver's license revoked, shouldn't be allowed in a store, shouldn't be allowed to go to school, you should be arrested, all these things. Yeah, she's a real... I don't even know what she is. Thursday, contributor Sandra Archibald pointed out that Satanists typically sacrifice their own children as proof of faith in Lucifer. She said people who vaccinate their children are doing this. Clearly, the pressure to vaccinate everyone is driven neither by profit nor health. Situation is merely a pretext to reorganize society along the lines desired by the Satanist central bankers. Undoubtedly, this involves depopulation. Remember this picture? Marina Abramovic poses with Jacob Rothschild in front of Satan summoning his legions? You can't make this up. This is legitimate. But, again, what do I know? This woman likes to paint in blood. And this man is responsible for countless war crimes and crimes against humanity. The White House has denied that vaccine passports will be necessary, but already sports venues, casinos, and universities are requiring them. Digital passports are on their way, with panic surrounding new phony variants, or if Bill Gates releases a more lethal virus, pressure to be vaccinated will become unbearable. Remember the mosquitoes. They can easily inject you with an actual, The unvaccinated will be pariahs subject to persecution. On April 1st, LA Times columnist Harry Littman tweeted, vaccine passports are a good idea. Among other things, it will single out the still large contingent of people who refuse vaccines, who will be foreclosed from doing lots of things their peers can do. That should help break the resistance down. He got 21,000 likes. They are already treating adverse reactions as masochist tests of devotion. Satanism is a death wish. The family of a British lawyer who died of a blood clot after the AZC19 jab has insisted that he was just extraordinarily unlucky and wants people to keep getting the vaccine. Do you believe that? Come on. I hope this doesn't crash. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. As David Spangler said, no one will enter the New World Order unless he take a Luciferian initiation, and the vaccine is that initiation. The conflict boils down to accepting or resisting enslavement. And there's a short video that you can watch. I will link this for you guys as well. Let's see. Going down. That's basically the end of that one. But I want to get to something much more pressing. I wanted to bring that up to kind of give you an overview of where we are at. And also, this will tell you where we are at as well. Okay, so this one. Mike Yeadon explains the 5 phases of the Great Reset. We went over this. Mike Yeadon is an ex-Pfizer scientist, and he sent this out on around the beginning of November. Phase 5 is established chaos and martial law, November 2021 to March 2022, and most people think we are going back to normal, the pathway to a new world order. Let's see how many of these have come to pass and where we are heading. Phase 1, simulated threat and create fear, happened December 2019 to March 2020. Mount a fake situation in China, killed tens of thousands of elderly people, increased the number of cases and deaths. Position vaccination as the only solution from the beginning. Focus all attention on C-19. Result, almost general panic. That happened. Phase 2. So the tears and division. Yes, they sure did. From March to December, it was all about divide, 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 divide. Impose multiple unnecessary, liberticidal, and unconstitutional coercive measures. Paralyze trade and the economy. Observe the submission of a majority and the resistance of a rebellious minority. Stigmatize the rebels and create horizontal division. Censoring dissident leaders. Punish disobedience. Generalize PCR tests. Create confusion between cases, infected, sick, hospitalized, and dead. Disqualify all effective treatments. Hope for a rescue vaccine. Result, almost general panic. Phase 3. Bring a treacherous and deadly solution. Offer a free vaccine for everyone. Promise protection and return to normality. Establish a herd immunization target. Simulate a partial recovery of the economy. Hide statistics of side effects and deaths from injections. Passing off the side effects of injections as natural effects of the virus and the disease. Cover the notion of variant as natural mutation of the virus. Justify the maintenance of coercive measures by not applying the herd immunity threshold. Punish health professionals for the illegal exercise of care and healing. Result, doubts and feelings of betrayal among the vax, discouragement among opponents. Come on, this is literally playbook. This is where we are. We're getting to where we are, actually. Install apartheid in the QR code. June 2021, October 2021. Voluntarily plan for shortages. Impose the vaccination pass, QR code to reward the vaccinated, punish the resistant. That's literally what's going on. Create an apartheid of the privileged against the others. Take away the right to work or study from the non-vax. Withdraw basic services to the non-vax. Impose PCR payment tests on the non-vax. Result, first stage of digital control, impoverishment of opponents. Now think about this. Come January, I think it's the 2nd or the 4th, when this deadline goes through with these companies, and if their people, if their employees don't take the thing, yeah, they're going to be out of a job. They are going to be out of a job. By design. Phase 5. Here's where all this is going. At this point in time, this is where all of this is going. Establish chaos and martial law. November 2021 to March 2022. We just started that. Just started that. Exploit the shortage of goods and food. Happening. Cause the paralysis of the real economy and closure of factories and shops. Happening. Let unemployment explode. Continuing to happen. Apply a 3rd dose to the vax. They were just talking about that yesterday, actually, I saw. Take up the murder of living old men. Impose compulsory vaccination for all. Amplify the myth of variants, the efficacy of the vaccine, and the immunity of the herd. Omicron, anybody? Demonize the anti-vax and hold them responsible for the dead. Arrest opposition leaders. Impose digital identity on everyone. QR code, birth certificate, identity document, passport, driving license, health insurance card. Establish martial law to defeat the opposition. Result, 2nd stage of digital control, imprisonment or removal of opponents. Phase 6. People like us won't be around for Phase 6. Cancel debt and dematerialize the money. March 2022, September 2022. Trigger the economic, financial, and stock market collapse. The bankruptcy of the banks. To rescue the losses of the banks and the accounts of their clients, activate the Great Reset. Dematerialize money. Cancel debts and loans. Impose the digital portfolio. Seize properties and land. Ban all global medicines, including total ban on herbal medicine. Confirm the obligation to vaccinate semi-annually or annually. Impose food rationing and a diet based on the Codex Alimentarius. Extend the measures to emerging countries. Result: third stage of digital control. Extension of the NOM to the whole world. Novus Ordo Mass, translated, it means new order. Is this not happening? Is this not exactly where we are right now? I mean, come on. It's literally follow your thoughts to logical conclusions, folks. This is where we are. We have to do this for our posterity. I have young nieces and nephews that I would literally die for. That's why I do this. I don't do this for myself. I don't do this for anybody except for, well, them first, and my family first, of course, and most of the people that I care about. And I love freedom, and I love this country, and I love the people of the world. So that's why we need to stop this in its tracks. This is literally a cancer that will consume most life on this, in this plane. I mean, think about it. Let's move on. Okay, I'm not going to be able to get to what I wanted to get to today because I like to ramble a lot, as I always do, like I'm doing right now. But that's okay because I will actually make this the part 2 of the last video that I did, which, if you did not catch the last video, we went down through this article here, NWO Agenda Explained, C Situation, Digital Identity, Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, Transhumanism, Agenda 21, etc. We got down pretty far, so if you wanted to see me read all of this, please go back and check that out, because I went through all of this and I was explaining all of this, and most of you already seen it though, because it's the last long video that I did. And we ended somewhere right down around here. I will find the starting point. Let's see here. Okay, this is where we were. UBI and one world digital currency. No world government would be complete without a world currency, and you can guarantee that globalists will attempt to force one through within the next few decades. Actually, it's not even going to be that long. It's going to be very soon. Very soon. This plan was hinted in the Rothschild-owned Economist magazine. The head of the Bank for International Settlements has claimed that he wants a complete control over money and banning cash in favor of central bank digital currencies. The central bank will have absolute control and the rules and regulations that will determine the use of money, and we will also have technology to enforce that. That was a quote from back in, I think this was in 89, I believe. I could be wrong, though. How elites plan to implement the digital one world currency as an unresolved question. The 2017 Jerusalem Post article, Israel and the Unexpected New World Order, suggests that a global currency collapse might be seen as a way to wipe the slate clean of nation-based currencies, especially the US dollar, and establish an international one, like Bitcoin. And here's the Economist magazine, right here, from the 80s, late 80s, and it shows the Phoenix rising from the ashes, and it says get ready for a world currency. And then the very next year, I believe, oh no, the span between the two covers, 33 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. Gov coins, the digital currencies that will transform finance. And I linked this in the last one, but I will link it again, of course. In 2020, Visa filed a blockchain patent for digitizing fiat currency. In the words of this article, the patent sets out a way for central banks So take fiat money that is currently in circulation, digitize it, remove the converted physical currency from circulation, then enable consumers and merchants to conduct transactions using a digital wallet, stored on a chip of smart card or secure element of a user device. The patent applies to all central bank digital currencies, including pounds, yen, and euros, meaning that the physical currency of any central bank anywhere in the world can be instantly digitized. For some reason, the Visa patent featured a very unsubtle Masonic symbology. A compass flanked by two pillars of Solomon's temple. Architect written below is a reference to the Masonic god known as the Grand Architect of the Universe. And who is that, of course? Who did Albert Pike say was the god of Freemasonry? How weird is this? Look at this. They're not hiding it. I mean, I've been on a kick lately telling you guys they are not hiding anything. We used to say that because it was obvious, but now it's literally, they're right up on you, telling you to your face what they're doing. A digital dollar was initially included in a C-19 relief package under the CARES Act. The bill suggested that it could provide a universal basic income for Americans. Forbes, that's where it came from, which would be instrumental for creating a digital identity based on social credit system. If income is centrally controlled either by the state or some unaccountable international bureaucracy, they can completely eradicate political dissent. Disagree with the elite? Sorry, no more money for you. The precedent is already set. Private banking corporations have been deplatforming thought criminals for the last half decade. See HSBC closing the bank account of Marine Le Pen, for example. And, of course, you got Bill Gates in 2014 saying that Bitcoin is better than currency. Bill Gates says digital currencies could empower the poorest. So anybody that still is on that Bitcoin train talking about how it's deregulated and the central banks can't get their hand on it, they're the ones that created it. That is all part of the world currency. And I really wish a lot of people would see that. Do not invest into Bitcoin. They just had a huge crash over the last week. The push to normalize the link between digital identity and the world's banking system is already well underway. For example, Common Health, the digital vaccine passport project launched by the Rockefeller Foundation and World Economic Forum, has officially partnered with Samsung Pay, allowing users to host their vaccine pass within the Samsung app. Apparently, this does nothing besides display QR codes that link to users' vaccine passes. A JPEG saved in your camera roll will achieve the same results, however. This is merely the thin edge of the wedge. Thin end of the wedge. You can expect new, wonderfully convenient features soon enough. And check it out. Samsung Pay introducing a vaccine pass. The day is coming, guys. The day is coming where you will have to show your phone to a militarized police officer in order to enter an establishment. And you better have your pass. The Doconomy credit card, launched in 2020, provides a glimpse of how the forthcoming social credit system might function. It tracks the environmental impact of everything you buy, including food, and cuts you off if you use up all of your carbon credits. A Finnish startup company produced the card on behalf of the United Nations, in collaboration with MasterCard. You will be pleased to know that the Doconomy team prioritizes gender and racial equality. 50% of their board is female, and a woman of color serves as the CEO. Okay, number 7. Transhumanism. And this is the one that we should be probably most concerned about, is the transhumanism. The most important aspect of the Great Reset is the Fourth Industrial Revolution, i.e. the transhumanist revolution. In the words of World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab, this will lead to a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identity. Think about that statement for a minute. A fusion of physical, digital, and biological identity. They want to try to erase God's handiwork. They won't succeed, but they're going to try. The merging of man with machine. If you think that transhumanism means turning people into badass cyborgs, capable of superhuman feats of strength and intelligence, then you're in for a nasty surprise. It's probably what most people think about it, honestly, because they are of low intellect already. The transhumanist revolution has been inoffensively branded as the Internet of Bodies, which is based on the Internet of Things, a physical network of internet-connected devices that collect and transfer data to one another, independently of human intervention. Practical applications of the IoT include smart home devices, smart city, but for your house, such as the Amazon Echo or Google Home, AI-driven medical care supply chain management, and agricultural and manufacturing processes. See the applications section of the IoT Wikipedia page for more info. The Internet of Things was conceptualized in the 80s and 90s at elite colleges like MIT and UC Berkeley. Both have links to the CIA. Its popularity skyrocketed after renowned scientist Bill Joy delivered a lecture on device-to-device communication at the World Economic Forum in 1999. So see, they were at this a long time ago. I would have been 5 years old. 1999. A year later, Joy penned the infamous Why the Future Doesn't Need Us article, in which he warned that our most powerful 21st century technologies, robotics, genetic engineering, and nanotech, are threatening to make humans an endangered species. Where are we at now? Just simple lines can be drawn to conclusions for most people, but they just don't think. The Internet of Bodies will be created by linking human beings directly to the Internet of Things via devices that can be implanted, swallowed, or worn. That's from the World Economic Forum. The IOB is a network of interconnected devices that collects data on human bodies, logging physical activities, health, etc., modifies their biological functions. Once again, the thin end of the wedge consists of near useless products like smartwatches and completely useless products like smart hairbrushes and toothbrushes. Smart contact lenses are on the cards too, so you could beam YouTube adverts directly into your own eyeballs. As with all globalist machinations, the transhumanist revolution is marketed by benevolent philanthropy. The World Economic Forum has claimed that the IOB could prove crucial in fighting the C-19 situation, and technologies like smart pacemakers and digital pills have been subtly promoted by think tanks and the mainstream media for several years. Physically implantable vaccine microchips, regarded as an insane conspiracy theory in 2020, were publicly announced as a life-saving scientific revolution in 2021. Which is right here. Come on. These are the articles that I love that show the narrative, they show the proof as they're going. It should go without saying that the globalist elites do not have the slightest concern for the health of humanity. Their only concern is power. If anything, they are explicitly anti-health. Ruling over a healthy, strong, intelligent, competent population is dangerous business for a despised despot. They could never be overthrown by a legion of drugged-up, obese, mentally ill, lazy, weak, timid, obedient fools. It's for your health. Which is true. They could never be taken over by, people like the people you see in your everyday life. And here's some tyranny here. A woman screamed, "He's choking me," during arrest for not wearing a mask. So this is what we got. In a boot about to stamp on this person's face. Like George Orwell said, if you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stomping on the human face forever. One of the primary purposes of the Internet of Bodies is data collection. But the question is, what are they planning to do with the data? A leaked Google presentation titled The Selfish Ledger 2018 drops some pretty big hints. In this hypothetical scenario, quote, end quote, Google states that an individual's ledger is all of the data that big tech has recorded about them throughout their entire lives. It's the digital equivalent of a person's genetic code, containing records of their entire personality, their unfiltered preferences, thoughts, feelings, questions, decisions, and so on. Like DNA ledgers are multi-generational, passed from parent to child. Google states that this mass of historical user data has made it possible to make increasingly accurate predictions about decisions and future behaviors. Just as geneticists sequence our DNA, Google claims that a massive multi-generational analysis of ledger data would allow them to engage in behavioral sequencing. Once the behavior of humanity has been digitally sequenced into a quantifiable form, Google can then target parts of the sequence and modify them in order to achieve the desired result. Just like gene editing, the end goal is species-scale behavioral engineering. Imagine that. People still say this stuff's a conspiracy theory, even though they're openly talking about it and have been now since this whole thing started. And before. This brings us to our next question. How will this behavioral engineering work in practice? The Selfish Ledger video gives the example of mobile pop-ups that gently nudge individuals toward more healthy behaviors. But it's unlikely that mobile pop-up spam will indoctrinate the entire human race. Scientists recently suggested that xenophobes should be forcibly drugged until they start to love refugees, and it seems this sort of biological hacking will be the control mechanism of choice for elites in the future. Medicating bigots into loving refugees is reminiscent of Aldous Huxley's comments on transforming the world into a painless concentration camp, in which pharmaceutical methods make people love their servitude. Given that 20% of Americans are on antidepressants or similar medication, it would be fair to conclude that many people already live in a painless concentration camp. Side note, Aldous' brother Julian coined the term transhumanism in his 1950 book, New Bottles for New Wine. He was the first director of United Nations, UNESCO, and a Fabian socialist. And this is Aldous Huxley's quote, if you guys are wondering. There will be in the next generation or so a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing a dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them but will rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. Literally knew what was happening because he saw it. Something along the lines of Elon Musk's Neuralink project, which is credited with kickstarting the transhumanist revolution, is the most obvious vector for behavioral engineering. Neuralink is officially defined as an implantable brain-machine interface for human symbiosis with artificial intelligence. In layman's terms, that means Globocorp will shove microchips in your brain and hook you up to a supercomputer. The Neuralink chip is the size of a large coin. It replaces a fragment of your skull and plugs directly into your neurons using tiny wires. Surgery is so complex it has to be fully automated using advanced robots. However, kind Elon has assured us that Neuralink will be affordable to the masses, costing a few $1,000s at most, the same price as LASIK eye surgery. Why do you think they make this stuff so readily available and so cheap? And Elon Musk is not on your side. A lot of people look to this guy as some kind of, no, not on your side. Not on your side. Okay, so I'm just going to skip down through here real quick, because I think I'm running out of time. Oh yeah, I'm running out of time. I only have like 3 more minutes on my recording. I got to free up some space. Okay, so elites won't need pharmacological methods to make the masses love their servitude if they can convince all the plebs to microchip their own brains. Don't underestimate how many people will happily sell their souls to Globocorp just to access psychic text messaging or virtual reality porn. Naturally, the technocrats won't transition straight from brain chips to eternal slavery. First, you'll get the standard brain chip, text messaging, and VR porn. Then a few upgrades, perhaps they'll release a Never Feel Sad plugin, the thin end of the wedge for transhumanist behavioral modification. Globocorp will steadily introduce minor regulations and patch updates until eventually one day you suddenly find that you're biologically incapable of disagreeing with the globalist agenda. Perhaps you will be incapable of recognizing that the agenda even exists at all. Everything is fine. You owe nothing and you're happy. You love living in the pod and eating bugs. Society has always been this way, the painless concentration camp. Okay. Let me keep going down. The final piece of the transhumanist puzzle is provided by Bill Gates, so you know it's going to be good. In early 2020, Microsoft filed a patent number, and we went over this hundreds of times, WO 2020-060606, which of course is 666, for a cryptocurrency system using body activity data. It's exactly as it sounds. Microsoft is trying to patent the concept of turning human beings into a living, breathing, crypto mining machines. The abstract is crystal clear. Human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. And there's the patent diagram again, if you guys wanted to look at that. Note the patent only states that the hypothetical crypto mining system will feature users somehow communicatively coupled to the server. It's not specified how the user is communicatively attached to the server. This could be achieved via implant, smartwatch, digital pill, perhaps some unknown newfangled technique. Gates seemed to be interested in using a biocompatible near-infrared quantum dots to brand vaccinated people like cattle, so he must have a few tricks up his sleeve. And we went over this, actually, the whole thing, not long ago, but pretty long ago. Okay, let's see. Basically just asking if this is the elite's plan. Bear in mind that when they say they redistribute power in society and financial inclusion, they generally mean stripping wealth from the predominantly white middle class and giving to the third world or immigrants. Globalists are not going to disempower themselves. It's also important to note that they don't want to forcibly redistribute wealth to the third world because they are good people, but because they want to shove a microchip in the brain of every African tribesman. They want everybody chipped, connected to this internet of bodies. I really wanted to read this, but I'll have to get to it next time. I don't have much time. So basically, if you guys want to screenshot this real quick, you can read that. I won't go through it, but yes, this is where we are. Next time, I'll get to the thing that I wanted to show you guys. It's pretty long, very long, but yes, I will bring it up next time. Maybe the day after tomorrow. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Good night. God bless you all.